Uh, Hello, friends. Welcome to Kizuna India Japan Study Forum. The Kizuna India Japan Study Forum was launched in September 2022 by the MOSI. The objectives are to explore and document the lesser known or under researched aspects of India Japan historical and cultural interactions and disseminate the findings through lectures, seminars, conferences, and publications. The forum has held one international conference in February 2023, and the papers presented in the conference are now published under the title Geographies of Exchange between India and Japan. We have also been holding lectures on monthly basis. Today's talk by Mr. Arun Shyam on Indian educators at the 1937 Tokyo Conference, a forgotten chapter in India-Japan relations, is the 18th in Kizuna lecture series. Let me welcome and introduce the speaker. Mr. Arun Shyam is currently an adjunct researcher at the National Institute of Japanese Language and Linguistics, Tokyo. Previously, he was an assistant professor at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad, India. Some of his edited publications include, and these are the books, Japanese Language Education in South Asia, What Does South Asia Need? Published in 2024. And the other is Teaching Methodologies in Japanese Language Education in India, published in 2019. He is also involved with an online forum called Sekai to Watashi. This is open to Japanese language users, including native speakers, and is aimed at facilitating intercultural dialogue using Japanese. Thank you very much, Arun, for agreeing to speak in this forum. Now, let me welcome and introduce the chair. In fact, he does not need any introduction. He is well known. Dr. Ashok Jain is a well-known physicist, has been the president of the Mombusho Scholars of Association of India for several decades. He was a mixed scholar of physics in Kyoto University from 1963 to 66 and a diplomat science attaché Indian Embassy, Tokyo from 1974-78. A fellow of National Academy of Sciences, he had taught in Delhi University, India, and Bristol University, UK. He was the director of CSIR's National Institute of Science and Technology and Development Studies. A multifaceted person and an outstanding scholar, he is also the recipient of Emperor of Japan's Medal of Honor. May I now request Dr. Jain to take the chair and conduct the session.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sushila. Arun, I'm delighted to have you on our forum. Uh, I believe that educational contexts between India and Japan are the very foundation on which our relations have grown over the years. Many may not consider, but I think the connection with Buddhism was essentially in educational contact. Because at that time in Japan, as all of you know, monasteries were the main learning institutions and teaching institutions. And India, not directly, but through China, Korea, got engaged. Now, this educational set up around monasteries continued. Let me quickly just go through this because I think the historical growth of connection in education between India and Japan is extremely important for understanding the future. And it is here that Arun's lecture becomes important. And I'm glad that Professor Azma is with us because he had given an excellent lecture on connections between educational contexts between India and Japan and the future. Now, what we today understand as educational institutions, as you know, started basically during uh, the Edo period, and the kind of educational system outside the monasteries was a kind of educational systems where there were different categories of educational institutions, primaries, and so on and so forth. The modernization of education system, Meiji period onwards, and till today, I can see as having two facets or two ambitions. As Professor Hirose Hiromi, he gave a very good lecture at Japan Foundation where he says that the connection between India and Japan are in two spheres. One sphere, which is idealism, democracy, spiritualism, Buddhism, and the second sphere is the practical sphere, where the political ambitions of the two nations interact. Now, the educational context between India and Japan have also been growing along these two spheres, so to say. And I believe Arun would explain in this kind of interaction, 1937 is an important period because, in my understanding, that is the period where Japan was trying to consolidate its position in the other sphere, looking at Southeast Asia, looking at former colonies, and so on and so forth. So it was a political ambition, not so much of a spiritual and ideal. And yet they interacted with the World Federation of University Associations, which was in a sense, which came out, if I am correct, out of a feeling that education or what you call hitotsukari has to be used for peaceful coexistence. So I think in this context, it will be very rewarding for us to hear from Arun, conference of 1937, what was the background, what were the deliberations, and so on. And if I have any observations on that, I'll come back after listening to Arun. So, Arun, please inform us about the conference. It's a very interesting. Nobody had ever looked at it. So, we are delighted that you have dug into it. And please inform us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jain and Sushila Sensei, for the wonderful introduction and providing an overview or the background to of my the paper that I had published in December of 2000 last year. And thank you all for joining today for the session. So let me share my screen. I think Jan Sensei, can you'll have to provide allow me to share the screen. I
You
don't
want
have
to
permission.
share slide?
Okay, yes. Yes. So this is the paper that I had published. So what I'll do is that I'll share the paper, the original paper, as in the chat box. If the organizers who can share it into the other participants here, it would be great. So Yes. So the topic of the title of the paper that I've written is Indian educators at the 1937 Tokyo Conference of the World Federation of Education Associations. Just to give a background, since Sushila has read out the introduction, I'll skip this slide. I am primarily not a trained historian. I am not an area studies expert. So I am slightly out of my comfort zone when it comes to this particular topic. But to provide context as to how I reached here, so if you look at the top part of this, the I'm working on an edited volume called Japanese Language Education in India, Past, Present, and Future. So in this volume, this is a co-edited with Dr. Professor Prashant Pardeshi at Ninjal Tokyo. And here in this book, we basically ask this question. So those who are familiar with Japanese language education in India would have heard about the first Japanese language classes that happened in 1906 in Shantiniketan by Sanujin Nosuke. Uh, so we sort of asked the question as to what happened in the rest of India, because as those who are familiar with India-Japan relations would know that the Kobe Bombay shipping lines were opened by 1893. So the question we asked was that what happened on the west coast of India, and what happened in the southern part of India. And it is through when we went through the archival sources, trying to locate some sort of interaction between people in the west of India, where the ports had opened up, and the Nippon Yusen Gaisha had shipping lines running in collaboration with the Tata and Sons. Initially, they collaborated in having the shipping lines, and later on, NYK ran the shipping line on their own. So we the result of that search sort of led us to uh, a, a few textbooks that were made in 1906, the very year that in Shantiniketan, the Japanese language classes started. So we found textbooks that were made by Indians, colonial subjects then, in 1905 in Gujarati, 1906 in Marathi. And it is in this connection that when I look towards the south, so I have a chapter on the south of India and how and where Japanese language started. That we I chanced upon this person from Kerala who had traveled to Japan for a conference, and this is where that I got to know that there was some sort of documentation available in Japan in the at the National Diet Library here,
Yes, right,
and this is where I turned my attention towards uh, the Tokyo Conference of 1937. So this presentation today is a brief summary of the paper that I've shared. And the details, including the works referred and archival sources, are available in the original paper published here. So the URL that I've shared has all the details. And this is an open access journal, so there are no you'll be able to access it with the URL here. Let me start right from the conclusion, and then sort of give you an introduction as to what the conference is about and who were the Indian educators who were there at the conference. So the argument that or the framework within which I'm trying to put this place this conference is that these Indian educators who were there at the conference were looking towards Japan, one for education, another for models of modernity, and the third for finding a new nationalist subject. So today in this talk, I'll be focusing on four people out of the 50 Indian educators. I've talked about few of others in the paper, but today I'll be talking about four people who are not mentioned in the paper. So As Dr. Jain correctly pointed out, there's a dearth of references to the Indian delegation at this conference. The conference itself is has largely faded away, uh, and I was not able to find uh, any writing on the subject. And one of the reasons that I think that this happened is because that these educators, after they return to the different parts of India, they might have written uh, their thoughts about Japan and the reason and what they wanted to learn and propagate about Japan in the vernacular, in the various languages of India, and not in English. And this inaccessibility is probably one of the reasons why there's very little, or in fact, no mention of the Indian delegation by Japanese studies scholars. And and when I looked at some of the people uh, who were the delegates at this conference, I found I am a Malayalam. My native language is Malayalam, and when I looked at this person who went to Japan as a delegate from south of India, I found various documents that he had published that were in Malayalam. The three others who I said I'll talk about, or I've also found documents written in Marathi by a person who had gone from Pune, and another two people from Hyderabad who were delegates from the state of Hyderabad, who had again similarly written in their languages. So I'll be talking about this I'll slightly provide an overview of who they are and why they were there. And I hope that this talk will help us or at least start, or at least spark interest in Japanese studies scholars in India who have access to the different vernaculars that are spoken in India, and then if we are able to uh, unravel these writings, it'll help us come up with a better picture on how these interactions provided the foundations for present day India-Japan relations within the context of education. So the sort of uh, I'll be talking in this order. I'll first give an introduction as to what the conference is, then about the 1937 conference held in Tokyo, followed by an overview of who the Indian educators were. And out of the 50, I'll be talking about four of them, and then we'll move on to the conclusion. And if there are any questions at the end of this talk, I'll be more than happy to respond to those. So the World Federation of Education Associations is originally founded as an outcome of a conference in 1923 in USA by the National Educational Associations. So the name WFEA, World Federation of Education Associations, was uh, uh, basically this came into being in later in 1927. It was originally called the World Education Association. Then in 27 at the Toronto conference, it got its name WFEA. Then in 1946, that is after the Second World War, it was reborn as WOTP, World Organization of the Teaching Profession. Later, a few years later, it merged with two uh, organizations related to education in Europe, and became the World Confederation of Organizations of the Teaching Profession, WCOTP. Later in 1992-93, they moved on to become, they dissolved and then moved on to become part of the Educational Association, Education International. So now to talk about the WFEA conference, one of the major uh, difference between WFEA compared to other organizations that were looking at international education is that WFA is the only organization that met outside Western Europe. So it is in this context that the movement of people from British India into Japan is an epoch-making event especially when we look at India, especially when we look at the interactions of these subjects, uh, of the colonial subjects of India and Japan. The So just to give you an idea of where the conferences were, the first conference was in Edinburgh, and then you have the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and the seventh conference in Tokyo. Till then, the conferences they have met at Toronto, Geneva, Denver, Dublin, Oxford, and then the seventh one was in Tokyo. This was the last conference to be held by WFA. The 1939 conference was cancelled. It was supposed to be held in Brazil, but it got cancelled. So this basically the 1937 conference is where the WFA sort of ceases to exist, and then it was reborn, and then it takes it becomes it's reborn as in different forms, but then never in the but it ceased to exist in the way it did till 1937. So the 1930 the seventh WFA conference held in Tokyo was the venue of the conference was the University of Tokyo, the Tokyo Teikoku Daigaku as it was known then, and it was also held in the Meiji Seimei building. The conference it's a week-long conference that was held between August 2nd and 7th. There were 150 organizations. There were about 2,500 delegates from Japan, uh, and foreign delegates, there were about 860. Out of these 862 foreign delegates, 50 were from India. Now, about the conference had basically three general meetings. These were the meetings that were held in the evening, and then where the delegates participated were the 20 sectional meetings on various topics. Apart from this, they also had radio broadcasts. The radio broadcasts were not done for India. It was done, if my memory serves me correct, till the Strait settlements, and of course to the US as well. Now, the regarding the Indian educators at the 1937 conference, uh, these were the fourth largest delegation with 50 members, 34 men and 15 women. And as some of you would have noticed that 34 and 15 adds up to 49. The reason is that in the National Diet Archives, in one of the five volumes that were published after the conference, it's marked here in the volumes that 50 people came from India. But when I went through the records, I was only able to find out 49. There's one person who I have not been able to identify. Uh, Now, apart from as I mentioned, India had the fourth largest delegation. This is only next to the USA, Canada, Philippine Islands, and Hawaii. And regarding the who they or which organizations they were affiliated to, there were multiple organizations such as the All India Federation of Educational Associations. There were people from individual universities or colleges, from schools. Then there were government officials. Uh, there were people from the people affiliated to educators affiliated with the Bombay Secondary Teachers Association, the Sahitya Seva Mandir, Kanke Education Trust, and about 10 odd educators who did not provide any affiliation as such. In terms of the geographical footprint or the geographical representation of the Indian delegation, if you look at their of where they were from, 19 of them were from the present-day states of Maharashtra and Gujarat, 12 from Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, five from present-day states of Kerala, Telangana, Tamil Nadu. Then you have three people from the present-day state of Bengal. Then nine from present-day Pakistan. one person was joined from Japan, and the 50th person, of whom the details are unknown. The In the paper that has been shared in the chat box on pages 20 to 24, you'll find a detailed list of participants from India. All of these 49 participants, including the affiliation address that I was able to find in the uh, 5 volumes that were published uh, after the conference was held. So today I'll talk about these 4 individuals. So the first person, Anakara Vadakathu Kuttikrishna Menon, is from uh, present-day state of Kerala. The second and the third person is these two, the second and third educators are from Hyderabad, and the fourth person is from or was from Pune. So after I published the paper and reached out to people to figure out whether these educators did write in their language or produce something in the places where they worked, I have started that collaboration with one of the faculty members at the AFL University, Divya Raila, and the fourth person, Digambar Damodar Gangal. We are Prashant Pardeshi and I are working on a paper on this person. So the main idea behind this paper was that there is a huge scope to look at these 50 educators, uh, see what kind of documents that they have produced, and then come up and then try to map their uh, contributions to to developing India-Japan relations. So let me introduce each of the 4 educators. The first person is Anakara Vadakathu Kuttikrishna Menon. So he was the principal of one of the oldest colleges in Kerala, in the north of Kerala, called Zamarin College, established in 1877. And he was one of the delegates, Indian delegates at this conference. Just to give you an idea of his uh, stay in Japan. So he reaches Kobe on the Kashima Maru on 15 July and stays in Japan for about a month till about 26th August. So it is these his memories of this month, this stay in Japan that he uh, sort of summarized in the form of a travelogue called Ende Japan Yatra and published this travelogue in 1941. So the travelogue is basically divided into 2 sections. It is written in his first language, Malayalam. The first section is a travelogue that's about 63 pages long, and it has about 33 images. Apart from the travelogue, there are another 2 articles that were originally written in English back in 1937. And apart from this, he has also written in one of the most influential papers in Malayalam called Madhubhumi. And I was able to locate about 3 articles written by him. Now, Anakara Vadakathu Kuttikrishna Menon, or I'll just call him AVK Menon. His he if you look at the travelogues, which I'm right now translating into English, he looked at Japan from the point of trying to find a model for a new nationalist subject. His interest, apart from education, the photo on the bottom right, as you can see, is the school that the family had started. The family of Kuttikrishna Menon had started. It's now a government school, and Kuttikrishna Menon basically his travelogue and all his writings, what it shows is that he is looking for uh, he's looking towards Japan as a model for how a subject under a nation can be. Now, in his travelogue that was published in 1941, most of his writings focus on the the uh, the traits of Japanese and uh, that a Malayali person at that time who basically spoke Malayalam can have in order to become a better subject for the nation. Now, the photo on the right over here, as what you can see here, is the press from where the book was published. I was unable to find further information on that because the press itself, the building itself, got was I mean is almost in ruins here. Now, what Anakara Vadakathu Kutakrisha Menon sees in Japan is slightly different from what Syed Ross, for example, in his education report of 1923 looks at. Kutakrisha Menon is not necessarily interested in the education system as such. He's more interested in what the education system produces, and he looks at his interactions with the Japanese. He visits a lot of schools in Japan, and he continually talks about the traits that the Indians can that he doesn't use the word Indian yet. He talks about the traits that people back home can incorporate in order to be a part of a nation. He doesn't define the nation specifically. Uh, yeah. Now, moving on to the next uh, two educators are Gausia Jamaluddin Begum and Syed Jamaluddin. Now, these are preliminary findings, and we have just started this work in the last 2 to 3 months. Gausia Jamaluddin Begum was basically the headmistress of model school when she visited Japan for the 1937 conference. Now, she is one of the first women graduates of Osmania University and one of the key individuals behind introducing the Montessori education in the state. Syed Jamaluddin, her husband at that time, uh, was the director of Government Gardens, and which is the current day public gardens in Hyderabad. So, what we've been able to find out so far is that Syed Jamaluddin, in the case of Syed Jamaluddin, he got training in gardening in Japan and prepared a project for setting up a Chinese section in the public garden. It also we have been able to locate a hall that sort of was decorated in the Japanese style, which he had built in 1940. Both of these we are at a very preliminary stage right now, but what we see again and again are that there is no one single uh, motive for the educators there. If you look at Koti Krishna Menon, he's looking at Japan, he's looking at the Japanese to as a model for how a subject can be in a nation. Whereas in the case of the Jamaluddins, Gausia Jamaluddin and Syed Jamaluddin, they have very different uh, they have a very different reason for their interaction with Japan. Uh, while we have not been able to find out whether Gausia Jamaluddin and Syed Jamaluddin interacted with Syed Ross or whether they've actually read Syed Ross's report on the Japanese education system, right now we believe that they were in fact inspired by the report that Syed Ross, or at least that's our hypothesis right now, that they have probably gone through the report by Syed Ross, and that has sort of inspired them in looking at Japan as models for the limited the areas or disciplines where they were specialize in. Gausia Jamaluddin, in her case, was more interested in the school system, whereas Syed Jamaluddin was interested in the horticulture system and was looking towards Japan as one of the models that can be used to sort of have an alternate type of, for example, gardening within the state of Hyderabad. The last person that I would like to introduce is Digambar Damodar Gangal. This is again in the preliminary stage. An article was published in the BBC Marathi based on the interview of Prashant Pardeshi uh, recently, just a month back. And now, Digambar Damodar Gangal is connections with Japan starts with the WFEA conference. So he basically visits Japan for the first time for this conference. But his chance encounter with Japan has a wider implication uh, in the technological developments that have happened in India as well. So DD Gangal basically visits Japan first time for the conference, and then he sort of pursues Morisawa font to create the first Devanagari font for Marathi offset printing. Now, uh, much later, in 20, 30 years later, Morisawa Nobuo basically donates the first Devanagari photo typesetting machine to Pune. And now Morisawa never claimed any patent rights on the Devanagari font, and this allows India to freely produce as many phototype setting machines as needed. And this technological advancement lays the foundation for sort of modern printing techniques in India. So the argument that I make in the paper is basically that the colonial subjects are looking towards Japan for a model for education, for modernity, and on how to be and a model for how a national subject can be. So, in the case of Kutikrishna Menon, he's looking at Japan for the national subject. In the case of Gausia Jamaluddin, education. In the case of D.D. Gangal, more, for uh, technology and modernity. And the reason that the efforts of these people, of these educators, have gone unnoticed is probably because that they have written, they've operated very locally, but the that although they operated quite locally, the from what we have seen so far, in the case of Kuti Krishna Menon, in the case of the Jamaluddins or Gangal, is that their efforts, even though it is at the local level, has created the foundations for the strengthening of in India-Japan relations. And this uh, paper is basically an effort, is a call to people in the Japan area studies and people who are working in the India-Japan relations to look at the writings of the people uh, and then sort of unravel what they have, uh, how these interactions have provided in laying that the base on which the present day India-Japan relations is founded. So I will end my presentation here, and I would like to use the remaining time for any questions or any suggestions that the audience might have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Arun, you have really opened up a fascinating field of research, and I can see there's a lot more to be done. I have just one query. What did Japan expect out of this conference? What was Japan's expectation? Because how do we place uh, Japan in taking the initiative? If you could give me some idea.
Most of what so from the as I mentioned, there are 5 volumes that were published after the conference, and this volumes basically show us what happened during the sectional meetings that happened. So there was 20 sectional meetings where the papers of that were presented are recorded, and then the discussions that were held by the chair is also available. From these sectional meetings, we can see that the WFA conference for Japan at that time was more of a way of whitewashing what was happening in Japan's sort of imperialistic ambition. So, one in the paper I've mentioned about Dr. Sheshadri,
Yeah.
I've not mentioned in today's talk here, but Sheshadri was one of the only Indians who were there in the director board of the conference. Now, Dr. Sheshadri clearly points out to the imperialist ambitions of Germany and Japan, and openly criticizes that although the conference is held with the objective of international education, peace, and so on, that what Japan is doing right now, or what Japan is actually, the actions of Japan sort of contradict that. Uh, Another way in which we can see what the WFA conference was for Japan is through the travelogue of Kutikrishna Menon. So if you look at Kutikrishna Menon, he interacts with JTB, the Japan Tourism Bureau, quite often, and he talks about during his 1 month stay, his trip in Japan is highly coordinated by the JTB missionary. So
Mm.
it is
Yeah.
a Kutikrisha Menon basically travels a lot around Japan, but along the routes that are set by the yeah the by the Japanese government, and the places that are shown are in a way tailored to show that Japan should be the should be the should be the sort of
The
the
fulcrum.
patriarchal lead of Asia, and not someone else. So these are the 2 ways in which we can see what it meant for the WF.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thanks very much. I was looking for this insight. Thanks. Yes, yes. Well, the floor is open for questions, comments, observations. Anyone? No. Just to clarify, this Dr. Seshadri is is not the one connected in any way with Delhi University, Seshadri.
I am not aware of Dr. Sheshadri of Delhi. Is
But Sushila would know.
No, 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 no.
oh,
And
uh,
Dr. Jain, Seshadri happens to be the first name. It is not a
I,
surname.
okay, okay,
Yes.
okay. So I was just getting excited. I thought that your father-in-law is talking.
oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I did not know that.
Yes. Asma Sensei, any observations?
I think someone has raised their hand in the.
Uh, I don't see the raised hands.
Hi Arun, this is Jain Sensei,
Oh,
Sushma.
Okay,
hi, Sensei.
Sushma, yes, go
I
ahead.
think by mistake I had clicked on that chat button
But go ahead.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry.
while you were still speaking. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak today. Such a new topic. We never heard about this conference. I mean, about the details. Um, I just wondered if the participants towards the end of the conference took any resolutions such as to follow certain type of education model or any such thing?
Yes. So, in the section, so this happened in during the general meetings that were held thrice. during this week, and in each of the general in the last general meeting, the third general meeting, uh, Dr. Sheshadri and another person called P.A. Inamdar, again from India, sort of talks about they basically reiterate the principles of WFEA, which is basically to promote intercultural understanding and promote international education, which is a if you trace that line, it actually goes back to the 1851 the kindergarten sort of fair, which I talk about in the paper. Largely they stay within the framework of WFA, which is basically that peace through international education,
Yeah.
and it is that is reiterated in these general meetings. I don't see Dr. Sheshadri, who's also the director, just contradicts this once in one of the sectional meetings, but otherwise it is largely kept within the uh, a very diplomatic sort of event that happens. In fact, in another paper by Devlina Ghosh, which I've mentioned in my paper, one of her criticisms about this conference is that while Japan's actions contradict the things that they mentioned during the conference, the WFA conference is largely uh, of no use because while it claims greater things could happen because of international education, what is happening around the world is in the opposite direction. So,
Professor George has a question before we come to Asma Sensei. Professor George, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Arun. I joined late, so I didn't hear your first part. But I have only one query. How long these people stayed in Japan? That is one thing.
yes,
Second is just one moment. Are you going to publish these papers?
yes. So the first question is how long they said. The only uh, evidence that I have is that of Kutikrishna Menon because of this travelogue. And based on this travelogue, which basically he has stayed for a month in Japan. And so it's basically from he reaches the port of Kobe and then he leaves back again from Kobe later in August. So he reaches in July and then uh, goes back in August. So that's about a month. Now I assume that the rest of the people also follow the same path. So in the case of Kutikrishna Menon, he moves from Kerala into Colombo, takes the Kashima Maru operated by NYK, the Nippon Yusen Gaisha, and then follows the trajectory into Kobe. I assume that the rest of the people have also followed similar lines. The WFA conference volumes do talk about the cost of sorry, the subsidies given to the delegates, but I don't know whether the rest of them have also followed a similar itinerary. But the best guess right now is that in Kutikrishna Menon's travelogue, he talks about other delegates also there in these places where he visits. So I assume that they've also stayed for a month. That's my best guess. The second one is regarding the paper. The paper is already published. The paper was published in December 2024. It's actually available. I just put it in the chat. Uh, I can't if possible, Mosaic. I don't have the rights
Can
to.
you email it me?
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
I
email
can
it
send.
to me?
It's already published and it's an open access, so it is available there.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so these are the two. Now, the next one that we're working right now is the next two papers that we're working on is basically the paper on the Jamaluddins who visited from Hyderabad. That is Gausia Jamaluddin and Syed Jamaluddin. That's the upcoming paper. And another paper is on the person from Pune, Digambar Gangal. So we're working on one on these two separately, one with a person in EFLU and another person with Prashant Pardeshi. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this
I would like
talk,
to read the papers. I
yeah,
would like to read the papers. Once you
okay.
publish it, please send me a copy of
Yeah, I'll share
that.
that. Okay, thank you.
Any Asuma Sensei? Yes, please go ahead. Asuma Sensei.
Yes. So thank you very much for a very interesting talk. I'm rather surprised to know that such a conference was actually held at that time, in which well, the military was taking taking over, the right wings were really taking over the whole of Japan. But well, before that, well, in the in the 1930 or until 1930 or so, the Japan was actually education in Japan was quite well going for more and more towards the liberal direction, and there were many attempts for new types of well. Broadly speaking, very liberal and free education, especially with many new schools, such as Jiu Gakuen, Seijo Gakuen, Tamaga Gakuen, or Tomoe Gakuen, famous with Tetsuko Kuroyanagi, and well, great educators like Obara Masayoshi, and were already active at that time. Well, I would be very much interested in what the Indian delegates at that time thought was it worth really learning from Japan, and well, also interested in whether the conference actually was liberal enough to include many of those liberal-minded educators in Japan, or well, in other words, what was really the Japanese delegation like? What kind of people did were they? Maybe you can shed some light on those issues.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Regarding the Japanese delegation, I cannot answer at this moment because I don't have a good idea as to what the 2,500 delegates from the Japan side were looking at. There's another paper by Goto that I've referenced in the paper that looks at the Japanese, one of the delegates from Japan at that conference. So on the Japan side, I think I won't be able to answer at this point. Regarding the, however, regarding the what we can see are the interactions between the Japanese and the delegates during the conference in the volumes that are published. So, for example, uh, the Indian delegates, if we look at, uh, so right now I mentioned four. Apart from this, there is another person from Bombay called Kapila Kandwala, on whom some research has been done. Now, most all of these individuals have very different reasons for looking at Japan as a model. So, as I mentioned, the Kuti Krishna Menon, for example, Kuti Krishna Menon is shown how radio broadcasts are done in Japan to sort of have physical education broadcasted to different parts of Japan. Now, Kuti Krishna Menon does not look at, for example, radio as propaganda in that. Kuti Krishna Menon looks radio as a technology that can be used back in that case, Madras Presidency, on how to sort of propagate uh, physical education or any sort of education to a large set of masses. So he sort of purposely ignores the propaganda aspect of radio that Japan used in 19 by the 1937s. It was anyway using shortwave to release its propaganda across the world. So he completely ignores that. So there is a sort of a purposeful what do you call it? purposefully ignoring the Japan's actions in Asia and looking at uh, aspects such as modernity, technology, and then uh, thinking of its use back in India. So I guess in a way, how Jain Sensei mentioned about the practical nature of this relation, I think it is more on the practical nature and less on the spiritual thing as such. None of the educators talk about, for example, the Buddhist connections. Yes, Kuti Krishna Menon does talk about Vivekananda and how Vivekananda has talked about Japan, but eventually they are not using the cultural angle. Rather, they are looking at the practical aspects that can be borrowed from Japan, and these are very different depending on the people. So, for example, the Syed Jamaluddins, they are not concerned about the nationalist subject. They are more concerned about their area, which is horticulture, and there are certain alternatives that Japan can provide, such as for them it was for example, the Chinese garden, and that is something that they can learn from Japan. So they've taken that. In the case of Gangal, DD Gangal, that I mentioned today, he is looking at the printing technology, and that's it. He is not concerned about the actions that Japan has done. So he's not concerned about education as such, but within that, he's looking at how to propagate education using the technology which he requires to print uh, the fonts, the Devanagari font per se. So, from what I've seen so far, they are not looking at the cultural or spiritual connections between India and Japan. They are rather interested in finding alternatives, an alternative modernity that they can borrow from Japan, uh, rather than their colonial overlords.
Um, I think we may be running out of time, but we have a hand from Sushila and Habat. Habat first, please.
I think
Habat-san.
let Mitsuko-san ask.
Thank you. My question will be very brief. Thank you very much. This is very insightful, and then I was not aware such kind of thing happened in 1937. So I really enjoyed your presentation. My question, one, is that you rightly said that this is India is in the pre-independence era. And then, although Japan is heading toward the war and then all, probably India delegation is the fourth largest. Is it because maybe Indian delegation people are trying to see how Japan's national confidence and then independence and then the strong feeling toward the Westerners. Do you think it's the reason why the India delegation is the fourth largest? This is my number one question. And then the second question, you named several educationists from India. These names are all sounds like from South India. Is it true that South India is more for education and then educationalists are more from South rather than North those days?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Let me just share the geographical, the slide that I used. So this is the 49 that I've identified so far. As you can see, they are not necessarily from the south. If you look at south, it's basically just five people. So Kerala, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu. The remaining are from the north. So 31, depending on how you would put Maharashtra, but 31 of the delegates are from the north. The reason that I talked about four people right now is because out of the 50, uh, the major argument that I put forth is that the reason that this conference and this educators sort of faded into faded out of the historical memories because most probably because they wrote in their own languages. And I speak Malayalam, and the people with whom I collaborated uh, basically are from the south. And that is why we started with these four people. Kutikasha Menon was someone that I have been working on since the last 3-4 years. And now to this has been added the Jamaluddins from Hyderabad, because the person with whom I'm working agreed to look about search documents and see who these people were. The other person that I mentioned is from Pune, the state of Maharashtra, is because that person is trying to find out what Gangal did, and most of the documents are available in Marathi. And it is less of a coincidence, more to do with the languages that the collaborators, that including me, speak, and less to do with the proportion of delegates from South India. So that is one question. And the second is, so I talked about the upcoming volume that I'm co-editing with Prashant Pardeshi. So it's sort of, the question goes back to, so we all think about Shantiniketan, the cultural connection between India and Japan, as the reason or as the major impetus which sort of brings about Japanese language education in India. But what we have found as we wrote, I write about South India and he's written about the west of India, is that the economic interactions between these two geographical spaces have also led to the to the you know the uh, have also sparked interest in people learning Japanese. And what we see as one of the major events, one of the events that sparks this is basically the shipping line that opened between Kobe and Bombay. This one that happens in 1893. Within a decade of this, you see Japanese language textbooks being made in Marathi and Gujarati. And the reason as to why there were so many delegates from India, I think, has partly to do, as there are two reasons, I guess. One is the connectivity that the Kobe Bombay line brought about. And secondly, uh, another reason, or secondly, it's because that these were primarily British Indian subjects. They were not in the sense of as you also pointed out, this is pre-independence India. And for the WFA conference, these are subjects of British India. And it is in, it is, I believe that these are two reasons why there is a major delegation of Indians at this conference. Another reason which I'm not sure, but could be, is because if you look at the directors of the WFA conference, you see two people coming up, which is Dr. P. Sheshadri and Dr. P. A. Inamdar. Sorry, Dr. Sheshadri and Dr. P. A. Inamdar. And they are uh, uh, sort of representatives of India as well. And this connection could be another major reason why, for example, the South India Teachers Union also decided to send people. Another reason why the the Education Associations of India also decided to send people. So I think these are the three reasons why there is a substantial number of people in the seventh conference that is held in Tokyo.
I see.
I think we will have Sushila first and then Professor George. Sushila ji.
Okay, okay. Uh, Actually, sometime back, Arun, I had a chance to uh, make some digital collection on this subject. I did not know that one day, you would be talking about this, so I did not take much interest. But those collections indicated that this conference was not sponsored by the Japanese government, but the funds were collected by businessmen, philanthropists, and educators. Is it true?
Regarding for the internal tours that happened, JTB provided uh, uh, what do you call it, subsidized travel allowances to the delegates. So there is a part that the Japanese government has also paid. Then there is another regarding finances, the WFEA, the parent body, also has provided finances. Now, whether a philanthropist paid for or sponsored certain things, I'm not sure. If you could share the documents, it would be great. I've not looked at the financial angle or who sponsored, whether there were sponsors of this conference. In the volumes that were published, I could not find, in the 5 volumes, I could not find any sort of uh, advertisement or any commercial that usually you see in the volumes towards the end. You will find mention of this. Most of the so for example, there is a thin book published by the Ministry of Education then, and they sort of don't talk about any involvement of the philanthropist. But then there is if you found a document, it would be great if you could share it. uh, yeah, that would be my answer. Sorry, it doesn't sound like an answer, but that's what I
Professor
think.
George, your hand is still up.
Yeah, I have one suggestion to Arun. Actually, recently I happened to hear one presentation, by a Japanese lady. She is actually Ito Izumi, I think her name. Yokohama Eurasia Bungakan.
Right.
Okay, you can note down. Arun, what I want to suggest to you that you know that there is a large Indian diaspora in Yokohama and Kobe, and this lady is an expert on that. She has given very beautiful presentation of Indian diaspora in Japan since Meiji Restoration. Okay, so maybe you can uh, go deep into the diaspora in Japan and whether they have any connection with the delegates to this seminar, whether they sponsored or how they have come to India. And that would be a very good research topic. Okay, so take
Yeah.
it up. If you want, I can send you the name of the lady, and she is actually Yokohama Eurasia Bungakan Fukukanjo. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sensei. I found the person that you mentioned. Yeah. I just when you okay. Yeah. I found the yeah. It would be great if you
She
could
has
send.
got a very good collection of materials right from the Meiji Restoration as far as Indian diaspora in Japan is concerned.
Thank you so much, Sensei.
Okay.
Yeah. Fine. I'll
Well,
contact. Yeah.
I think Sushila would have the last word, but I, I, I would just flag one issue which Professor Azma has raised, and I think it's important for me also, that the interest of Japan had started shifting, in my opinion, to the right, as I call it, the practical aspects. And I see this trajectory to be growing. Now, so 1937 conference and what is happening today have similarities. And that's why I think little more understanding of Japanese motivation for that conference would be very, very illuminating. Because this thing, whether Japan government supported or not, is not the relevant, because Japanese have their own way of involving private sector with the blessings from the government. So I think one will have to go a little more deep into the motivation of Japanese for that conference. That would be very illuminating and give us some idea as to future trajectory of India-Japan educational context, because I think we have overemphasized over the years the Buddhist connection and spiritual connection. It's time we got onto your trajectory exactly. The vast canvas that has opened after the shipping lines, the material culture, the practical aspects, the economic aspects, the technical aspects. So I'm very glad that you brought it out so clearly. Thank you so much. There's a lot of new work coming up, and I'm delighted to have this input into our forum. Thank you. Sushila ji.
Really, thank you so much, Arun, for highlighting not just a forgotten chapter. I mean, I think most of us did not know about this. So it's a very crucial and informative aspect of India-Japan cultural interactions. And although the conference, I think it was dissolved after that, and it did not also succeed in attaining its objective of global peace or making world a happy family, partly because of the international turbulent situation. Nonetheless, that there were people, there were educators who were making an effort, and especially the role of Indians. And I had read an article which you had mentioned in your bibliography also by Wallace at J. Stored. So the way in which Dr. Seshadri spoke, very freely and boldly. So that, and most of these Westerners, how they remain neutral, as if, nothing was happening in Japan. Nobody had the guts to point it out. And Japan, of course, I mean, as Dr. Jain said, Japan was interested in creating a greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. So Japan was trying to win goodwill through this conference. Anyhow, and then most of the Indians who returned, they preferred writing in their regional languages, in their vernacular languages, not only because of fear of British government, but also for smooth dissemination of their views and their experiences. So I hope that you know only Malayali or also Telugu and
No. I know Malayalam, Hindi, English, and a little bit. Yeah, but yes, I need collab. I mean, that's why I'm collaborating with others who can speak.
Yes, okay, if you can find some Telugu knowing or Marathi knowing, so this is a wonderful work, and thank you for providing the leads. In fact, it sparked of interest in India also. Some of the Indians, who returned, because soon after this conference was held in August 1937, and in October, there was All India National Education Conference at Wardha. So, and in which Gandhiji's proposal for basic education through vernacular language was, this resolution was adopted. So maybe, it must have influenced the Indians and sparked off interest among other Indians also. So thank you so much. And it was really wonderful having Dr. Jain as the chair and listening to his valuable insights. I also thank all other participants for their interest in Kizuna activities. Hope to see you again. All these lectures are available on YouTube and Kizuna India Japan Forum and the MOSAI website. Our next lecture is scheduled for Saturday, 31st May by Dr. Ashlesha Marathi. She is affiliated with the University of Tsukuba in Japan. She will be speaking on exploring thoughts and behaviors of Indian and Japanese people. Same time, same Zoom platform. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Before
much.
you end,
Professor
may
Sushila
I,
Narsimhan,
may I just,
my paper
may I,
is not there. Although the link say that my paper, when I open it, somebody else's paper is coming.
oh, I'm sorry. We'll get it rectified. But
This is
Sushila
George.
ji, George, I know we'll get it rectified, George, certainly. I wonder, Sushila, whether it's fair to ask suggestions. We are planning a physical conference in November this year, and I believe a theme around educational context will be very useful. And maybe
We can
between
group
you
in
and
Prashant.
Professor Pardeshi,
Yes.
you can sort of think of bringing some scholars into it, because this is an area which is going to be of increasing importance in future. And it would be worthwhile to have a physical meeting of some of you so that we get to know each other much better. Think over it, talk to Pardeshi Sensei, and see what
Okay.
can be done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sushila ji, have I opened up the basket too early? Because you said you will think over it, but I got excited, so I said it.
Good, good. Okay, thank you.
Asma Sensei, you have listened to this, na? Education as a theme.
Yes. No, and especially Tokyo conference, I mean, this is something which must be highlighted where nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a huge digital collection in Washington State University. So a few years back, I had gone there, but at that time, I had not thought about it. And today, I am regretting why I did not look into it. There's a huge
Go back to Chicago. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Arun.